Let's go live on YouTube.
I took a peek at the YouTube once and I could not hear my voice. It makes me feel so weird. Even looking at my icon there freaks me out.
Uzi, we need to start on a good note, a positive note.
The stock is beautiful today.
Yeah, how's it doing?
I think it's up. Just said energy is doing well. That might be the game changer for like energy overuse.
Haley, how are you?
Hey, good night. How are you?
Good night. Good afternoon. Tesla Stan, how are you? Tesla Stan, go ahead. Hi, Haley, how's it going, man?
Yeah, everything okay. Nothing's going on. It's nighttime, and it's time to listen to Tesla Live.
I really appreciated all your contribution yesterday about Ziker.
Oh, really? I listened to the space, and I thought I was sounded stupid for the beginning, at least.
Why do you say that?
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you noticed. You and me, you and me both speak in, different language. I don't know if you noticed, but for me at least, every time I speak in a different language, my personality is almost like different. So I'm trying to contribute more, but I'm limited with the wording. Copy, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I have many things to say about Ziker and Tesla, but it's so difficult to express.
I think you did a great job. I did not think for a second about any of the stuff that you just mentioned.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
I thought it was great.
to bring value.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, kind of pointing from that yesterday's chat on Zeekr. When customers choose a Zeekr vehicle versus a Tesla, what's kind of the primary reason? Let's say top 3 reasons.
Sure. So I would say that the most clients are just kind of people where chose Tesla when it was new and almost the only Chinese car or any other BEV car or BEV in Israel from 2 to 3 years ago. Now it was new, it was very strong, very beautiful, very unique. Now Zeker, it's like the new kid in town. It's the cool kid in town. It's very cheap comparing to Israel. If you're talking about the price of Model 3 or Y here, comparing that price to the 001, which is like the flagship of whatever Zeker has to offer. So basically they get almost Model S in half the price of Model S. But when it comes to 3 and Y, it's like a naked car to them with nothing, no interior. They have only the screen. But once again, the 001 has so many things because it's very similar to Model S. And it's almost the same price. So it's not even like they don't think about it. It's like they're getting so much more for almost the same amount of money.
Interesting. Uzi, what do you think about that?
I don't know. Just learning about that market, I have no clue. I know they have a great tech scene now, so it's not surprising. But I don't know anything about the cars.
Ellie?
I can tell you that Israel as a country is not very interesting when it comes to the market. Like there's no reason for you guys to look at what's going on here. I understand that. It's very small, very insignificant. But when it comes to the market, the value or the brands, I can almost say with no 100% guarantee that there is no other country in the world that has what's going on here. What I'm saying is, when it comes to the US, I don't know how many cars you have from China. When it comes to Europe, same. Outside of China, I'm not aware of any other country that has European brands, the US brands, and Chinese brands. We know because we don't manufacture any cars in Israel. There's no Israeli car brand. So we don't really care about where the car was made. So we don't have any, big tariffs on Chinese cars, US cars, or, European cars.
Ellie, can you give us an update on the geopolitical situation going on there?
Oh yeah. It's very interesting. Basically, I thought about everything we talked about last time you asked this question. I think it was on a chill mode space 3 or 4 weeks ago. The thing here is, yeah, everybody and their mother thinks that a big war is coming. Like a lot of big figures from the military are in the US right now. A lot of the people here believe that they travel to the US side to discuss tactics and what's the next move when it comes to the war, the coming war. We believe a lot of the people here, almost everybody believe that in the next few weeks, a war between Israel and Lebanon, basically Hezbollah, will interrupt or not interrupt, start. And we starting to, collect food, water, all that stuff. People don't spend money. Like, you guys talk about inflation stuff, but we talked about same things. Everything is more expensive, but at the same time, like, what's the point? What's the point to buy new stuff? What's the point to do this and that if a big war is coming? Whatever is going on with, Gaza Strip right now is very small to what could happen with Lebanon. Now, I don't wish any of that stuff. I don't have any opinion. So, guys, I'm just from Israel, but I'm not holding any opinion about this or that.
Thank you. I appreciate that insight. That's interesting. So geopolitical risk is rising, you think? Any specific reason why that might be? And then we're going to go to Uzi after that. Actually, let's get Uzi's question first, and then maybe Ellie, you can maybe think about kind of a couple of things that we should track to see if there's a risk of war rising.
So if people aren't spending, are you afraid of like a recession in Israel?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Ellie, what do you think about a couple of the maybe things for us to track to measure geopolitical risk?
So, you see, that's where I do want to bring value, but I'm trying to disconnect myself from this situation. I don't do politics or any of that stuff here. What I hear from people, so that's not the next things I'm saying are not facts. But the tension that we have in the north is getting bigger and bigger. Like it's bigger than ever had before in the past. What's going on in the south is clear to everybody in the world. But the thing is, um, you know what? I don't feel comfortable enough to talk about it, and I don't want to mislead any of the people here. So maybe next time I will try to come up with better answers.
Yeah, that's okay. Why are you feeling? I mean, I understand it's a very controversial topic. Is it because it's close to home for you, or is it because it's a controversial topic? Why are you feeling at unease?
Well, my opinion at least is that we don't need you know, to fight. We don't need to argue about this kind of stuff. I know it sounds like naive and childish, but whatever my leaders, so called, are thinking, that's not me. So I don't believe in any of those reasons. Like we are trying to protect ourselves, etc., etc. I just believe that, like the fake media, the legacy, whatever you want to call them, journalism, whatever you want to call them, that's all BS. And I'm not participate on any of that stuff. I'm being taught to, don't like my, you know, cousins, let's call them. I'm Jewish, so the other side of the people on the map in Israel, I've been taught to, don't like them, don't trust them, and they're trying to do this, try to do that. I don't believe those people. And it's very explosive topic. And that's something I can learn. I can speak about it with you because you're from Turkey. You know about this kind of stuff. You know what we think and feel about one another. And you don't hold judgment. You want to hear everybody, like, bulls and bears. I know it's like a silly example, but you want to hear other people and then come up with a conclusion. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, actually. I really appreciate that you say that, because that is correct. And although, there are people out there who say otherwise, but that's fine. So what I do in those situations, in such controversial topics, is focus on the facts. Just state the facts. Neither side will come back at you if you just kind of stick to facts. And and kind of keep a calm, succinct, fact-based reporting type of approach to it. And I think that would be very useful for the space, because we don't actually have geopolitical expertise much here. There's maybe one or two people. We don't really focus on it too much, but I think that we should. I think that we should kind of talk about it. I think this is a topic where a lot of people kind of leave on it, thinking that it doesn't matter. But for example, commodities index has risen in this year. Not in the last couple of weeks, but oil prices have risen. And when oil prices rise, inflation rises in the following months, at least on the headline level. And then the Fed may push out rate cuts, and that has implications on every asset price, including Tesla stock price, which most of us here are for. So it all really ties in together. So we need to kind of build up that expertise. Uzi?
I just want to say I agree with your epistemology. I think a lot of the time, part of it is there's people like Don Lemon who make statements like the facts, and I find that somewhat frustrating. But then on the other hand, taking a statement and breaking it down to the premises that built that conclusion is, I guess, the best way for knowledge building. And on top of that, what this space allows for, it's sort of a deliberation where you see both sides. That's when the common ground between premises becomes evident. And then some people are just FUD kings, there's more negative terms to put to that. But I appreciate the style of discourse.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments? Please request to speak. Whether you're bull or bear, please request to speak and let us hear your thoughts on anything Tesla related. I would appreciate that. Uzi, what's on your radar these days?
Not much. Today there's the beef with not SpaceX, but with Blue Origin. Elon knows how to keep it going. I'm very happy also that the vote is done. It's just a lot of time to relax, sort of just look at the business. So I hope, and I think people are starting to rally around how this judge is objectively a little crooked. So I think that dilemma is sort of weighing down. Elon's focus on SpaceX. The business is looking better. The stock's looking a little better. So things are a little bit more tranquil. And I enjoy that. We all want the company to do well. So and then there's earnings, right? And coming out, and I saw the revised down total delivered units. So that's another thing to keep on the radar. But the stock's performing well. Then I guess that's priced in already.
I mean, honestly, I think those delivery estimates from sell side analysts, like the one that just revised down from 510,000 to like 420,000, they're simply following what Troy says. Troy says, like, who's Patreon? I highly recommend. I think he does a really good job of explaining people production and delivery by geography, the drivers, and kind of leads to a higher understanding of the company. I highly recommend Troy Tesla's like Patreon. But on that front, we got really positive news today from China. Insurance registrations jumped this week versus last week. What did you think of that, Uzi?
Well, this is novel to me. I feel like the Chinese market is where we're going to see a lot of um, FSD coming together. So more growth in that market is actually exciting. I think Elon's handling the political situation with like China bad very, very well. And there's not a lot of praise for his diplomatic side, but when he's intentionally diplomatic, he's quite quiet and strategic. So it's good to see that market um, doing well. And I really like Shanghai, China. The Shanghai factory. They're very interesting to me.
We'll get back to that. Let's get the Highlander's question. Highlander?
I find it interesting because I'm in a nice Ohio campground, taking a couple weeks off. Right next to me is a 2015 Tesla. And I just think that speaks volumes. I really do. He's got free supercharging for life. And I'm just going to put my little submarine over on that comment because people who don't believe in Tesla, which is now a multi-corporation, I think they're missing the boat. I really do.
Okay, great. Uzi, what did you think of the FSD transfer?
I was just happy he kept his word. I'm still learning what that actually means, so I'm probably not the best person to go, consult for this. But as long as he's keeping his word to shareholders, and the people are happy, then I'm happy. Um, I heard there's some technological challenges with that when I'm just trying to figure out how it works actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of calls out there to make it permanent, which I thought is interesting. I don't think Tesla will do that. I don't think Tesla should do that, but it seems a uniform call from owners to make FSD transfers permanent, which obviously is not surprising, right? Because people will always want for free stuff or lower prices. That just never will change. Anyway, Sierra, how are
Hey, I'm good. How's everybody doing? Kind of a boring
you? Good.
Tuesday in news.
No, it's okay. We don't have to talk about news. I have questions for you. So I put out a tweet today, asked about people's favorite LLM. I pinned it at the top. Quite a few responses. We got about 50 responses. I said, do you use Grok, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Claude, Copilot, or any other large language model? Which one do you use?
So I actually use all of them. And my favorites are very application specific. So I have different favorites for different things. Grok is my favorite for anything real time news related. I especially love the Grok Trends news that just when you open up the chat here on the platform, it highlights recent updates and things that are trending on the platform and then gives you quick news summaries on them. ChatGPT I use for a lot of like longer format writing and to aid as a research tool, but definitely not for my source of information. Perplexity is my favorite search engine. I've set to my default browser. I use that in place of Google. Claude, I like Claude for a lot of things. Claude is really good for writing things where you need to cite resources because it will provide resources upon request and actually put them in citation format, which is great. And it writes creative writing really well, like poetry, lyrics. Copilot is the only one I never really play with. And Gemini, I used to love, but have been a bit hesitant because it's resistance to answer certain questions or the kind of biases that are worked into Gemini right now, but they seem to be calming them out of it slowly. But there are still things that Gemini just will not answer, that are not like really, in my opinion, controversial topics. So I'll give that a little more time, but I like the integration with Gmail and my calendar and Docs. Should you feel so inclined to connect them, it's convenient for that.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you. On the LLM, if I may, just want to share some experience. So I subscribe to ChatGPT, and I prompt it to build me tests. And I also teach sailing, so I ask it if you can build me some tests out of a pool of questions that available for my students. And it was like, yeah, sure, I can do it. Just give me a few moments. After like 10 to 15 minutes, I'm like, I'm still waiting for my PDF. Can you please provide it to me? And they're like, sure, the PDF will be available in the next few minutes. Just give me some time. I'm working on it. An hour later, still nothing. 1 day later, still nothing. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, am I doing something wrong?
Interesting. Sierra?
Yeah, I can respond to that if you don't mind. And you might see this in other LLMs as well. That is a hallucination. So anytime an LLM tells you it's going to carry out an act on your behalf, especially if it tells you you can download something, and sometimes they'll even include broken links, which is nuts. But this is a common problem, just where we're at with LLM technology right now. They're meant to be at their core conversational. So the core goal of an LLM is to provide a response to whatever is said to it or asked of it, almost like a person would. So it's responding the way that like your coworker would if you asked them that, but it's only doing it through language. It actually does not have the capability to output a PDF for you to download. So these are pretty common hallucination issues across the board with all of the LLMs that are being worked on, and hopefully we'll see less of that soon. I've definitely seen less of it in GPT, but when they were newer tools, all the time they would tell you that they would do things for you that they couldn't. Back before we could generate images, they'd be like, sure, give me a couple of minutes and I'll send those over to you. They even sometimes would like ask for your email or tell you that they would email them to you. But it's just to fulfill their task goal, which is to give you an answer.
Thank you, Sierra.
Uzi.
I think I use the LLM similar to Sierra. I barely use ChatGPT. I use Grok all the time. I also, for X Premium, you get Grok funny stories on Explore, and that is pretty entertaining. The things with Grok I'd love to see, and I think this will apply to Tesla, is when Grok has a voice. Curious what the voice will be, and then that's how Grok will probably be in the Tesla. Um, and then yeah, those stories with Grok, very entertaining. Sort of takes away from trending because you have everything as is explained. So Grok's being used really well, in my opinion. Also, podcasts. Now I watch them. I don't use Apple Podcasts or YouTube. I use X now, and then I'll research on Grok. So X is becoming an educational tool, which I like. And then I never use ChatGPT. I don't know if I said that. Never use Claude except for when people are talking about it. Copilot I use very frequently for work. Copilot's pretty good in terms of, I guess, I from Power BI if you're in the Microsoft Fabric. It knows DAX fairly well, and then you're making reports or whatever. So that's really helpful just for that use case. And then occasionally I'll use Meta. Oh, I'll use Copilot also. I made my avatar with Copilot personally, and then Meta I barely use. It's worse than Copilot's image generation, in my opinion. But Meta has some interesting um, use cases. But part of the problem is that Grok can answer these fun questions, can't make the images. Whereas um, I wonder if Grok has the capability to make images, it'll be limited because of that. It doesn't want to make
Okay,
controversial.
good. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is amazing. I mean, we have both Sierra, who used to train Grok for XAI, and Uzi indicating that they use different LLMs for different purposes. Very informative discussion. I created a list at the top of your screens. If you could please go to that list and share your experience in the replies, I would appreciate that. Omar, welcome.
Hey, I'm driving around today, so I don't know how my signal's going to be, but I'm here from the car while FSD is on.
That's perfect. We actually can hear you pretty well. Machine, welcome. Actually, you're not welcome.
You know, I was just thinking that once these algorithms start to try to learn audio, that they're going to be sabotaged by people like me. They're not going to be able to understand the sarcasm and the incorrect answers that I give, such as this question I have for Eli. I didn't realize, Eli, are you the one training those dogs and sharks to sail into Gaza?
Yeah, we definitely need a line somewhere to not cross this bridge, but you keep pushing it. That's okay.
Yeah, I think like war where actual people are like dying is probably over the line.
Yeah, come back to this side of the line, Machine. Machine, what do you think about these LLMs? Let me ask you this way. Do you think this kind of application-specific favorite LLM is going to stick around, or do you think one of these LLMs will emerge as the overall best?
I think in the end, people are not going to be using a whole suite of them indirectly. The worst case, it's going to be like it's all going to be bundled together. Like someone's just going to put them all together and figure out the connection for like what your question is, and then we got to go ask this LLM. It's just like sadly, like cable. Back in the day, we had cable where you had 300 channels that you didn't watch, and you're like, yes, now Netflix is coming. You're like, I don't need cable anymore. I can just pick the channels that I want, and I don't have to spend as much money. And then you end up with all these different options. You got Netflix and Hulu and HBO and Disney, and there's too many. And then there's all these fringe ones. What are you going to do? You waste your time having to figure out which ones to select. It's too much work, and people don't like that, right? Except for the speakers here. Other people, normal people, don't want to mess with this. That's why they like Gemini, Google. They just go to Google and now it's already in there. For most people, that's going to be good enough. Yeah, I said most normal people, Uzi, you're not normal. So they're going to be fine with this. And I think to enhance the productivity, it is going to link to all these LLMs, whether it's Google has their suite or some third party links them all together. I think in the end, people are just going to have one prompt that they use.
We can't hear you, Yaman.
Oh, Uzi.
You can let Sierra go, no worries.
Sierra, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there are already some third-party tools, and actually within Perplexity as well, you can select your model. It's not auto selection like what you just described, which I agree. Eventually, people are going to want that, where whatever you're prompting just allocates your query to the most appropriate tool, or perhaps even in an ideal scenario, runs your query through all of them, cross-references them, and then gives you the most accurate output, especially with anything that's like scraping the internet for data. It would be really cool to have them cross-reference each other so that we don't have so much misinformation. But there are a couple of tools. There's one called Ask AI that's like a plugin for your browser that you can just connect your different LLM accounts to, and it will let you toggle over to Gemini or GPT or Claude or Llama, pretty much everything but Grok right now. And so if people don't know about those, they do exist. There's quite a few of them. You do still have to subscribe to the premium LLM itself, though. You're just connecting endpoints.
I cannot hear you, Yaman. Are you saying something?
No one can hear your mind, so just go ahead. Uzi, what's your question?
Okay. I agree with you, Machine. I do think there'll be there's like this wave of startups and expansion, and then there will be consolidation, and then these super AI apps where you'll be able to ask it to make an image in whatever way you want, and it'll be there. I think it's part of it will be the developer, and then part of it is just the user, and then I think part of the user experience is distribution. So it's where will people be, and that tends to be social media apps. I do use Perplexity, but I have to go out of my way to do that.
By the way, the reason that the host cannot talk right now is that he's at his McDonald's job and there's a customer trying to order.
Yeah,
Can I get your order?
I'm gonna jump in here and say that
Please
Apple
keep your order
Intelligence.
to 10 items or fewer.
If you're not
Hi,
ready
can
to
you hear me?
order,
Yes,
you
I
can
can hear
ask
you.
ChatGPT first and then get back in line.
Oh, I'm dying. Oh my gosh. Give me.
All right, so I think Apple Intelligence and whatever LMNs they connect to are going to win because people just use things that are designed in their phone. Like to machines take, we're the 1%ers, everybody else is 99%. The only reason people use those things is because they're built into their phone. Like if you go ask my wife, hey, what do you use for an AI? She'd be like, what are you talking about? All I do is ask Siri or I ask this. Like if you go ask other people, what do you, oh, I just use what's on my phone. Why do you use iMessages? Oh, because it's just built into my phone.
I realized recently at like since I started time stamping my summaries, I do it on YouTube. I link them to the YouTube version because when people listen to the space afterwards on X, they don't see the reactions. So when someone makes a joke and all these reactions and laughing emojis are going off on X Spaces recording, it's like silence, which is pretty funny. Whereas on YouTube, you kind of see all the emojis. Anyway, machine.
It's like needing the laugh track for these sitcoms. The crappy
Yeah,
sitcoms
exactly.
need a laugh track. But if you're really funny, then you'll actually get a visible response from people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
How many people are actually laughing? They're probably just pushing the button and smiling a little bit, if anything.
Yeah, that's what they do for you.
I mean, when you
For me,
guys were
it's
just
real.
talking about McDonald's, I was actually laughing, like laughing out loud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could tell, right? When Omar makes a joke, everyone just puts up their icon just to appease him and get his little social media credits. And that's the difference between us. And another difference between us and real people like my wife. I asked her, "Do you use any of these things?" And she's like, "Yeah, because they write papers and stuff, and you can use it for like helping you write your abstract or make it more compressed because there's like word limits and stuff." And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What do you use?" She's like, "I just type into Google." So that's what most people are going to do. So they're going to use Google, they're going to use Apple, they're going to use their tools that are already in their system, right? And unless something is so extraordinarily better, it's hard to get out of that inertia.
Sierra.
I totally agree, and you're right, but it also is very alarming to me. It's so important that whoever ends up leading in these spaces deserves to lead. Like, I recently got my mother to turn on the AI powered search overview in Google, which has gotten really bad, by the way. It's really not good lately and outputs not factually correct information. Something is wrong with like how they're where they're scraping the data from to answer questions. And I think they're working on improving it, but who knows? Last week, Google told me during a Tesla Live discussion when we were talking about the FSD frame rate, Google said that it was like 2,000 frames per second, very confidently in this little paragraph overview, which is insane. It's 36, I think we decided. But if you are just a regular user of Google, especially if you're used to like Google search, you're going to read that and be like, okay, well, it's 2000 frames per second, and walk away with that knowledge and be satisfied with it. So I think that you're right, machine. And I also, it worries me a little. And I hope that people do use their discernment when they are receiving information from these tools.
Jimmy,
There's a reason why TV still exists and CNN and Fox News exists, because people are still watching the TV and they believe anything that's fed to them. And it's going to be the same thing with phones. And the whole reason behind people moving from device to device or service to service is because TV used to be full of ads and cable didn't have them. And then cable moved over to ads because they were like, no one's watching TV anymore. Let's go get their money. Then everybody cut their cords and they went to Netflix. And then they're like, how do we market to people who aren't on cable? Oh, they're all over on Netflix. And it's just going to be a constant thing that happens. We're going to keep moving through this. It's all about ads and marketing. That's why I support Brave authentication token, BAT, because it stops all that nonsense. I own a lot of it, and you should too. And this is financial advice.
all right. Sierra, one last question for you on LLMs, and then we're going to switch topics. What do you think is leading to different LLMs having different expertise, being best in different areas? Is it the data they're trained on? Is it training methodology? Or is it something else?
I think it's a combination of three things. So definitely their data training sets, and then also their mission statement as an LLM. So they are kind of all currently devised with different purposes in mind. So Rock mission is to understand the universe. It's to best help you break down and disseminate information and find truth out of all the noise. Gemini is definitely geared more toward workplace applications and streamlining like office tools and integrating with like your docs and your everyday life with their new tie-in with Google Photos, and kind of being that on device AI if you are an Android user. Whatever Apple turns out with will be the same for the Apple consumer and more focused on everyday life integration. Some are better at coding, some are better at language, but it is partially how they're designed and then also how they're trained. And lastly, how we as the end users use them. And what people are saying that they're good at, the companies will start to lean more into that and try and refine those skills.
Thank you, Sierra. Machine, changing topics. What do you think of the China's insurance registrations?
The what?
Insurance registrations in China.
They were higher than expected, so that's good, I guess.
It's very insightful.
What is there to say?
Someone,
You're gonna overanalyze every little detail.
someone in the replies said an insight that you clearly don't have, so you should listen to this. I don't know if this is true, but the reply was, it's because the 5-year interest-free period ends on the 20th. So it might be a temporary thing. Did you see the resale values turning down?
I did. I checked again yesterday, and yeah, unfortunately, it's continuing. So I would just expect at some point next quarter they're gonna offer the low APR again, right? Did they discontinue that? Or
I'm not
is it
sure.
still
Omar,
going
do you
on?
have an update on that? I think it's very focused to, I think the Model 3
I'm
has
not
it now.
sure.
Let me just try. Jimmy, do you know?
Are you talking about the 299% on the Model 3?
Right. Yeah, I think the Model 3 has now, right?
Yeah, they should still have it, I think. And now it's also opened up to FSD
Yeah, the
transfers on that
Model
vehicle.
3 rear-wheel drive has 2.99% for 60-month long. The long range is up to 6.4%. So it's only the Model 3 rear-wheel drive that has it.
But you get the free FSD transfer.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I wasn't thinking about buying a car, but with the incentives and the FSD transfer, I might just get rid of this 2019 Model 3 that I paid 18,000 for and do an FSD switch.
That's so funny. Just buy a used Tesla with FSD, transfer it to a new car.
Yeah, because I did. It's funny because I'm not the initial person. I didn't buy it. Like they just sold it with it. So it's all upside for me here.
You could probably sell the car for almost the same price.
Tesla wants to give me 19 for it.
Omar, can you do that right now? Like if you actually grab that FSD Tesla on the used market, which is I think about $1,000 more than non-FSD Teslas, you can flip it around right away.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, you're allowed to do that. As long as it's on your Tesla account, you can transfer FSD to a new car. So it might actually be cheaper to buy a used car with FSD, transfer FSD off, and sell it for almost the same price than to buy FSD right now.
Yeah, and if you can find a car under 24,000, you get the 4,000 used EV tax credit, and then you can also get the $7,500 on a long range version.
No hands mode.
It's just sad that Tesla investors have moved on to this method of trying to make money because they can't make money on the stock.
I'm not really sure buying used vehicles is going to affect Tesla stock.
No, that's the
Yeah,
only way you
this
get money is by trying to do some arbitrage here because you can't make money on the actual stock.
yeah, this is kind of crazy. I mean, people are
Nobody's going to
calling
make
for
money doing this. You're going to end up with two cars somehow. And it's probably not going to work out that well. Just subscribe for $99 a month. That'll be a lot easier than trying to do this complicated transaction. We're mostly just joking. But in his case, because he got to use Tesla with FSD, he could actually do it.
I remember the day that I picked it up from the dealership. I bought it from a Ford dealership and I got the update, like the 12.6.3, like the day it was, and other people were like, "It's been months, I haven't gotten it." And I picked it up and immediately downloaded it.
Sarah, you a new Tesla owner. Did you subscribe to FSD?
I am, and I am still I'm at the tail end of my 3-month free trial because I used a referral code, but I definitely am going to subscribe. Yes, I use it all of the time.
Steve Tesla is going to join us in about 10 minutes to give us an update on the used car market. Grant, go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm incredibly pained as a bear that the stock is not down today. Good job, guys. I don't know.
But did you deadlift this morning? Is that where you're upset? You deadlift like 20 pounds?
I actually threw out my back like 10 days ago. Not deadlifting, literally just walking out of the gym after running. It's pathetic. So, no deadlifting for the foreseeable future.
I'm sorry. I made a joke and you were actually hurt. So I'm apologizing. Sort of.
I had
Wow.
been working up to a really important goal, which was being able to lift Machine's mom up off her couch. This was years in the making, and now it's all for naught.
See, it's
That's
like
how he blew out his back.
literally
Banging
everybody on
Machine's
this
mom last night. Even the Bears are now in on the Machine's mom jokes.
It's just so unfair. I don't understand the space, how everyone attacks me and my mom. And why anyone to do this? The space is supposed to be about Tesla and investing, and all you guys do is talk about my mom. It's disgusting.
I've invested a lot into her. Okay.
Everybody on the speaker board is laughing, and people who listen to the recording on X isn't going to be able to. But let's
Yeah.
bring it back to Tesla. Omar, question for you. People are calling for Tesla to make this FSD transfer permanent. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think I should be given FSD for free for the rest of my life. And I think that Apple.
Did he cut off for you guys too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Machine, what do you think? So Eli cut it off as Omar was saying.
I don't know, what was the question?
People are calling for FSD transfer to be permanent. What do you think?
I don't know. It's interesting. This is obviously for people who bought FSD. Subscriptions, it's kind of irrelevant, right? Because they'll change your subscription price no matter what when they update it. So this is really about people who bought it a long time ago, and when they bought it without the idea that they would be able to transfer it. So I don't know, why would you give people? I get on one hand why they wouldn't, because it wasn't part of the agreement. On the other hand, you may motivate people to buy new cars. So I just is it at some point it's not going to be a big issue anymore, because not that many people are going to keep buying. I don't know what percent of people are buying the overall license versus subscribing over time, assuming that's going down. So I think it's just like a momentary thing to boost demand, and I think ultimately they'll just take it away, and it won't matter either way.
Sierra?
I have a question, I guess, open to the speaker panel. Do we think that FSD will ever just be standard in the vehicles? And if so, how far off timeline wise do we think we are from that? Or is it not really feasible?
So I have a super unpopular opinion that FSD should be free on every single Tesla. It's the only reason I buy Teslas today, and it's the only reason I'll buy Teslas in the future. And as other EV makers, including Legacy Auto, catches up, you can't say our cars are fast because everybody's cars are fast. You can't say our cars are comfortable because everybody's cars are comfortable. But what you can say is, hey, we have full self-driving capabilities and they don't. And so I think that's the way it should be. And if we don't go that direction with the last question we were asking, it shouldn't be VIN number attached. It should be account attached. So if you buy FSD, you have FSD that you can move around to any vehicle in your account, but you can't have it on both vehicles, but you can move it at any time you want. It should be account bound.
Machine.
I wonder, because you have to imagine at some point this will happen. If it becomes so good, robotaxi level, then they should be able to require it on every vehicle, because they would just only sell to people who want to buy it. There would be that much demand. But I'm curious if they would prefer to raise the initial price, $10,000 or whatever it's worth, or just require everyone to get a subscription. I'm not. Does anyone have thoughts on the viability of that? Like, would it be interesting for people to buy a car and say you have to pay $100 a month of a subscription? That seems odd.
Uzi.
I agree. It's sort of authoritarian to require everyone to pay $100 prescription. Also, maybe that's like acceptable in China. I don't know that market as well. But then, if you consider the other car makers, it's not just people with Teslas. So, like, they'll take at least 5 years to get to where Tesla is now. And then, will they be able to render drivers' attention as useless? I don't think so. So it really depends how it plays out with Tesla licensing their FSD technology to other companies, or if that even happens.
Thank you. At minimum, I believe that they at least need to give you the option to buy it for life. So it will stick to your account and free transfer basically for whatever car you buy. at least as long as it's Tesla. And then if you just want to subscribe, you might as well just do that. I mean, it's your choice. They should allow it.
Alex- Alexander.
Hello, guys. I think the account bound idea was pretty good.
The Fed.
I think it needs to be transferable until they fully deliver it. And XM, Sirius Radio, they did offer a lifetime membership back in the day for a much higher price. That could be an option.
Yeah. Well, wow. It's amazing how uniform this is. You know, the calls are very uniform. Interesting.
I mean, as an investor, I do like the recurring revenue stream. So that's one thing against sort of consensus. And then let's say you bought it at a higher premium and you owned it, and then it became free. You'd feel like, oh, I was cheated by Tesla. So I do like the subscription model for those two different reasons.
Every time for me when I drive the Ziker, and once again, it's a good, decent car, but every time I drive it, I'm just aware of the fact that it doesn't have the brain, the technology, the future that Tesla has. And in my mind, it's like they're going nowhere. As long as they don't have anything remotely close to what FSD has to offer, Tesla has to offer, it's just, just four wheels. Yes, it's comfortable and beautiful, like everybody said, but the Chinese cars, they don't have anything, nothing compared to Tesla. But you just need to know that when you sit in the car, you just need to know what Tesla has to offer. And obviously, outside of the US, FSD, it's not a thing. But autopilot, whatever we have, it's just a good lane keeping, and that's even nothing because you need to disengage. You need to take charge of the car after like 2 minutes. They can't even keep you.
I was gonna say, if we're discussing subscriptions, do we go monthly subscription or do we do annual subscription? And I bring this up to the room because Microsoft, I work a lot with their licensing, and they actually just got rid of annual subscriptions. They're now called legacy subscriptions. It's only monthly because Microsoft wants their money every month so they can invest it, instead of waiting for the start and the end of the year for annual subscriptions.
Here's an interesting part too. As Haresh Kimani in YouTube live chat just pointed out, Haresh says the FST transfer promo, interestingly, is only until August 31, given an opportunity perhaps on 8/8. We hear some updates and some folks may want to lock it then. Interesting point. Has the Fed talked yet? Cryo, go ahead. Cryo, you may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I was thinking with FSD transferability, though, I like the idea that you could transfer to a new vehicle, obviously, if you've purchased in full. But for how long is that going to be, something that we should be allowed to do? Say 5-10 years from now, when FSD is 50 times better, we pay $8,000 now. Is it reasonable to expect that you're going to be able to just transfer this to every new Tesla you ever get forever in perpetuity? Or would there be some kind of time limit on that? That'd be the only reason I think that it's not something that you could transfer from vehicle to vehicle. Sorry about the technical difficulties there.
Yeah, that's what my idea is behind if we did it account based. So you tie FSD, you pay outright for the account, Because here's the thing, like on my vehicle, it has FSD not paid by me, but paid by somebody at one point in time. But like my hardware's done. I'm on hardware 3. I'm not going anywhere else. The only thing I can do is go to hardware 4. But if it was just account based, maybe I decide I'm going to take a break from Tesla for 4 years, drive something else, and then I come back to it and I have the newest hardware and stuff. And then I say, hey, look, FSD's still in my Tesla account. As long as I don't delete my Tesla account, now I can get the full experience of FSD on a newer vehicle.
Hey, my thought on this is that they should make an explicit policy that you are allowed to transfer it up to a credit of the value of your original purchase price until they come out with a model that can drive the car without a driver in it. And then explicitly, the transfers are going to stop at that point. I feel like a lot of the early owners, bought it thinking it was going to be ready years ago. They're kind of swinging in the wind to some degree. That would be a good, like, customer focused, customer first thing that I think would get a lot of people to upgrade and be a good medium that would keep most people happy without destroying the financials too badly.
Thanks, Lauren. And in the replies to the space, we have Hustletown, Texas says FSD transfer kills the future margin of the company. If you use it, pay for it. I mean, there is that consideration too, as Elon also pointed out on stage in the shareholder meeting. They have to make their money somehow. And right now, to offer FSD transfer to a few 10,000 people that purchased it in the past is one thing. To make it transferable forever to tens of millions of people who are going to buy Teslas in the future is a completely different story. Yeah.
I actually put my hand down because I have an unpopular opinion, I think, but I'm just going to throw it out there anyway because it's what I believe. I think that FSD does need to be standard on at least certain trim level vehicles, like maybe it's standard on the Model S and X. But I actually think that that is important to a robo taxi future. I think that the robo taxi naturally is going to be met with a lot of resistance from the general public. And the best way to ease that resistance is to get FSD in as many vehicles as possible to the point where it does become a standard feature. I would like to see it be a standard feature in all of the vehicles. It's their biggest point of difference, and it's what makes Tesla a lifestyle brand.
Alexander.
Maybe it should be free to transfer for people that bought FSD from certain dates, like the true fans and the true supporters.
Grant, you may unmute yourself and go ahead. I know you're experienced in spaces and everything.
Hey, sorry, I don't know if it was lagging there. I would say I like the idea that it would be free for everyone, but I would definitely highlight that a lot of people who might get it for free would not be power users or might not even want it. I mean, I think what we saw with, as debated as those conversion metrics from the free trial are, I think that there are a lot of people, including people I know, who might have tried it out and been like, this isn't my speed. This is kind of scary. I don't think it's good enough. And I just highlight that there's a bit of a risk for people who get it for free, that they think it's dangerous, and maybe a bunch of people inside of the Tesla ecosystem saying, hey, this isn't safe, this isn't ready, would be just a risk that people may not be considering.
Okay, we're gonna, Damien points out in live chat that this is a really good discussion. I like it. Let's give the last word to Omar, and then we're gonna switch topics for a little bit.
Everybody in this pricing discussion is looking backwards instead of forwards. So
they need to charge for FSD. If you were willing to pay $99 or $8,000, then you get to use it. If you're not willing to pay, guess what? Drive yourself. Have fun. It's a Tesla. You get to drive yourself. I think this thing has enormous value today. If you don't think so, then don't use it. And people come up with all these complicated ideas. Oh, it should be this. The account one you hear a lot, but if you were to give a license for a person's lifetime rather than a car's lifetime, the price will need to be several times higher. So they could do attach to your account any car you buy, but then they probably have to price it at $16,000 to $20,000 at least to compensate for the fact that it's multiple cars, right? The cost, again, think about all the money they're spending on this. Billions of dollars of data centers, QA
Tens of
people, testers, engineers, test cars, all this stuff. Okay, how are we going to pay for all this as a business? We need to actually charge people for now. Okay, for now, we need to charge people. Now, look at the story with Waymo today. Waymo now removing invites in San Francisco. I just drove, all across LA with FSD just as we're talking, and it drove me from, the South Bay to Venice, Venice to Beverly Hills, all without any interventions. This thing is completely taking off. It's going to be driverless long term. And when it's driverless, it's not going to cost anything. Okay. It's probably going to be free on an ad supported basis. So you're not going to be able to buy a car without FSD. Okay. Nor would you want to. It's like saying, hey, can I get a phone without data, without internet capability? They don't even make them anymore, right? Hey, can I get a TV that's black and white? They don't make them anymore. They're all color, okay? Every car is going to be self-driving. And the self-driving is going to be so much better than us that nobody's even going to think anything of it. They're going to think it's actually crazy for a person to drive a car rather than a computer to drive a car long term. So if you want to switch between cars or whatever, just subscribe. Subscribe, you can cancel on one, you can move to the other. If you purchase, then you get to sell it with the car. And that's going to kind of be the pricing model right now. The pricing model post autonomy is that you don't even need to buy a car. Okay. So every car you buy will have it in one way or another. And if you don't even want to buy a car, you can just call a ride on an ad supported or sponsored basis or pay some amount to get a ride. And that's really what the pricing model is going to be look like. So, you hear people say a lot, well, it should be free to transfer. It should be free until they've solved FSD. Well, it's going to be free after they've solved FSD. Until then, we need to pay for it so they can actually get to FSD and invest what they need to get there.
All right, thanks so much. We're switching topics, guys. Cheap Teslas, welcome. So Cheap Teslas actually sells Teslas, used Teslas, and it's a great account. He has really good prices on used Teslas, and he prices them to go, and often they go within minutes. And if you want a Tesla with FSD paid for, he's a really good account to follow. He's on the speaker board right now. You can go to his account and follow him. Cheap Teslas, welcome.
Thank you. How's it going?
Good. Can you give us an update on resale values for Teslas? How are they trending by model?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember the last time we talked. I think most of the cars that I sell are pretty specialized as far as options go. And especially right now, I'm trying to push most of my business to sub 25K cars just due to the tax credit. I have a lot of customers that are eligible for tax credit and take advantage of the tax credit. I think just in general, the market is still. I don't really mess with newer cars. I don't really mess with anything newer than 2020 for the most part right now, just because that new 4-year stint is too volatile for me to want to take a risk on. Somebody else might have better information on those cars than I do, but as far as like the cheaper end of stuff goes, it's getting a little tough. I think there's less buyers out there right now. I think with a lot of cars running out of their factory warranty from Tesla, makes things a little bit interesting. The 16s, that were facelifted, that a lot of people were looking to buy, a year ago, are now dropping out of warranty. I think mileage also is playing a bigger role than it used to, purely because of some of the third-party and aftermarket warranties. They have mileage caps, or at least I believe XCare has like 100,000 mileage tier, where if you can get a car into their warranty program that's under 100,000 miles, then it's a lot cheaper than above 100,000 miles. So there's a lot of factors at play. The cool thing is, some of these 16, 17, 18 cars that have a decent amount of miles are now getting under that $25,000 mark, and people can take advantage of the tax credit. So I know I just rambled on for a really long time, but feel free if you have any questions, or if I can help at all with answering anything or whatever, let me know.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Teslas, please request to speak. Ellie?
Thank you. So, Chief Tesla, I have a question regarding your business. Whenever you need to sell somebody a car outside of the warranty,
Can you guys hear Ellie?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. So I just
I'll be
continue.
right back.
So, do you need to convince the buyer that basically the car is good and they don't need to take it to a special garage or specialist to check the car because there's nothing to check, or they already know, or maybe it's an area where you guys talked about something I didn't describe? Like, I'm just curious, what's the conversation about the situation of the car, like how, if it's good or not, and whatever.
Yeah, so I actually have a couple of contacts at Tesla. So whenever I purchase a car, whether it be from a private party, an auction, dealer to dealer, wholesale deal, anything like that, I always send the VIN to my contacts at Tesla. They'll run through it and they'll tell me exactly what the options are. If there's been previous repairs, if there's any outstanding repairs that maybe this car got brought to a service center and the service center said, hey, you need to replace this, that, and this other thing too. And the owner at the time denied the service. They'll be able to see that and tell me. So I do a pretty good job of describing the car as best as possible, giving the remote diagnostic to any potential buyer. A lot of people that buy Teslas from me kind of are well versed enough to know that really mileage doesn't play a huge factor on these things. I personally have a car right now that has 254,000 miles on it, original battery, P100D Model S, and the thing's an absolute tank. It's a little rough around the edges, but it drives great. The battery is holding up super, super well. And I just think that these things outstand any mileage concerns. 200,000 miles isn't a whole ton of miles for an EV car, in my opinion.
That's awesome. Can you repeat that last point? I mean, I think that's a really underappreciated point. That there's a lot of thought out there about battery life and how much it costs to replace these batteries, etc. But Tesla says the batteries are designed and produced to outlast the car. Can you speak to your last point?
Yeah, I just think I just think that mileage is really not a concern. I mean, the only thing you really have to do with these things is brakes, tires. I mean, even the brakes, shoot, I think I've seen original pads go for like 160 on a car before. It's just incredible. My Model S P100D, I think the only serious replacement it had was a rear drive unit, and I don't know exactly when that happened. But the thing's got like I said, the thing's got 254,000 miles on it right now. It drives great. The side mirrors are a little bit beat up, but if that's the only thing wrong with the car, then I'm happy.
Ellie,
Thank you. Do people have some preference to what kind of battery the car has? They come in with some requests, like if it's this or that, I want to buy or I will buy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people always, you're trying to get the most bang per buck, so you're looking for the biggest battery you can possibly get. It's kind of cool now. The 100Ds, especially a couple of Model X's with higher mileage, some Model S's that I currently have and have sold, those are getting under the $25,000 mark, and you still get really good range out of those things. A lot of people try to stay away from the 60s and the 75s just because the range isn't there in a Model S or Model X. But I think as we continue to time goes on, even some of these Raven units that the Model S long range, I've seen a couple of those things with really high miles, 160, 170, sell for under 25K as well. So those are starting to come into the mix a little bit, and I think we'll still continue seeing prices come down. And I always thought, I thought the bottom was near, but these things just keep getting cheaper, which is great for buyers. And people that want to,
you're not the only one. You're not the only one who thought the bottom was in for resale values. So did Machine, and Machine is usually right about things, and he was off on this one. But I highly recommend people sign up for Patreon at the top of your screens. One thing I do for patrons is Tesla Weekly. On the weekends, I send out an update on resale values. And I've been saying for the last 2 months that the stabilization and the uptick in resale values for Tesla is temporary. The primary reason is because interest rates are still high. And there was a seasonal tailwind for all resale values, but that seasonal tailwind is now dissipated and gone, and it's not going to be a headwind going forward. So you're going to see all resale values, including Tesla's, decline going forward. Not as fast as it did in the last year, but it's still going to be downward trend.
Exactly. I think you're dead on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I just think you're dead on.
Thank you very much. Omar, welcome.
Hey, still just driving back. Probably going to be driving back to the rest of the space.
Okay, that's fine. Cheap Teslas. One thing that people suggested now that Tesla's allowing FSD transfers again is to buy a used Tesla and transfer the FSD to a new Tesla. Because on the resale market, the FSD resale value is like $1,000, $3,000. So you're essentially paying a significant lower price for FSD on the used market, and then you can just transfer it to a new Tesla. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Number one, I saw this a ton with people that took advantage of free supercharging transfer. So I had a lot of older cars that had free supercharging. People were like, "Hey, I just want the cheapest ST01, which is the free supercharging code transferable. I just want the cheapest SC01 car possible. Can you find me something?" And I was buying like 200,000 mile 70s with free charging, and people would just transfer the free charging to a new car and then dump the car afterwards. And you can stack it with an EV tax credit. You take advantage of that. You get $4,000 right off the sale price, and then you just go dump it to CarMax or whatever after you strip it clean. So my guess is, this is the FSD transfer is going to be similar. Obviously, the cheaper cars don't have FSD. They don't have any capability. All the nose cone cars are the cheapest ones right now. But as we continue on, there's some cars that get miles on there that are a 16 or a 17, late 16 or a 17 that could have FSD and be relatively cheap.
That's a great idea. Get it from cheap Teslas. The account is on the Speakerboard. Go follow him. Get it from cheap Teslas. He prices them to go. Get FSD fully paid. Transfer it to the new Tesla on Tesla.com and sell that car to CarMax or whatever. Perfect. Good idea. Anything else you want to update us on?
I don't think so. That's unless anybody else has any other questions. I'm always happy to chat about values. If you want to send me a message, I'm always there. If you need a car, if you need to find a car for you, a specific Tesla, specific battery color, options, all that stuff. I find joy in finding people exactly what they want. So shoot me a message. I'm happy to help. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. We have something coming up.
Chief Tesla, quick question. What's the differential between the equivalent car FSD and no FSD on the resale market?
I used to think it was like $4,000. A couple months ago, my kind of target was like $3,000. Now, recently, I don't know how much people have cared that much, especially since they lowered the price of the subscription. Now that we can do transfers, my gut tells me that I'd like to think that it's a little bit more valuable for outright paid FSD, but it's just too early to tell, I guess. I haven't had a whole ton of people reach out to me and say, "Hey, I need a cheap car that has paid FSD yet." I still think the economy's in a little bit of a rough spot, so the buyers just aren't there. But it may push more people to try to find a cheaper one with FSDs that can do the transfer if that's already in the plans. Long-winded answer, I think around $2,000 to $3,000.
That's a couple things.
Any other questions? Leave the clip this week. Grant. Grant, what else?
Hey, are you talking to me, Iman? Sorry.
Yeah, what's on your...
Hey, are you talking to me, Iman? Sorry.
Yeah, what's on your...
What's on my mind is just that the stock is up today when they announced the Cybertruck recalls. I'm just surprised by that. I don't get it. It's a bummer. Down.
Sierra, can
You're coming in and out for me. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're rubber banding a little bit. Kind of going in and out. It's not awful. I can hear most of what you're saying.
Chief Teslas, have you had anyone come to you about the Cybertruck?
Very few. I won't touch a Cybertruck right now. Things are tanking.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, now that, especially when they start the $80,000 one, you're going to start seeing those foundation models come down.
Yeah, I think I posted. I don't know. It feels like a long time ago, but the first one that ever ran at auction, I think it was only like 2 months ago. I think it went for 240, and now they're like right around 100. That's just crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what those people who are paying 240 was thinking, to be honest. Grant?
Yeah, this is actually a pet peeve of mine. I mean, I will say that a lot of bears are like, oh, look how rapidly the price of used Cybertrucks are dropping. It's disastrous. But in reality, I think that that's something that's just obviously to be expected. I mean, used cars cost less than new cars. There were obviously some people willing to pay a tremendous premium to get early access, but that was always going to fade. I mean, it just kind of makes sense to me. So I'll just vouch for the fact that in my mind, it made sense that used ones are now at 100 or probably less with time, you know?
James?
Sorry, I was going to say something, but then Omar totally said exactly what I was going to say. So he already summed it up about autopilot. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Grant, is there a price where you would buy the Tesla?
I don't need a car. I actually had a car briefly and sold it. I was given a car and got rid of it because I didn't need it. I haven't been on the market for cars.
No, I mean,
I don't
this
actually
stock.
know what I
This,
might. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, the Tesla stock. Would you buy the Tesla stock?
I would buy Tesla stock at like $50 a share, probably.
Okay. Sierra, have you listened to Everyday Astronauts interview of Elon?
I did a little bit. I didn't finish it yet. It was great. Did you have any favorite parts?
Well, I haven't listened to it, so I was going to ask you to kind of summarize whatever you listened.
Yeah, I really didn't listen to much. I'm sorry. I watch a lot of Elon interviews, and they're great. But after you watch so many Elon interviews, you don't need to watch all of the Elon interviews. Uh, sorry, I didn't. I
Okay,
just watched like the
if
first
anybody
6 minutes of it.
I got you. If anybody has listened to the interview, please request to speak. I would appreciate a summary. Link?
Did you call me Link?
LinkedIn, welcome.
You're breaking up. I'm not hearing you, dude.
I'll be right.
I don't think. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm doing good though. I think you said how, so I'm guessing you're saying how am I doing? So
Yeah, he said, "Hey, Lincoln, how are you doing? Can you hear my audio? Okay."
yep. Yeah, doing great. Doing great.
Did you watch the Everyday Astronaut interview?
No, not yet. I'm excited to though. I need to have an hour where I can really sit down and enjoy it. So yep, I'm excited to do it.
You know what, Sierra? I don't know. I'm not a big fan of talking bad about Elon, and I'm not going to. But what's going on with his body shape in this video? Like, I don't know if it was the camera or what happened there.
I think you can reword that question a little better. You can say something like, I'm concerned about his health.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, go
yeah.
ahead.
Thank
Try again.
Yeah, definitely. I love Elon Musk, and I'm very concerned about his body shape or whatever I saw there.
Has anyone listened? If anyone has listened to the interview, we can talk about the interview. I would really appreciate a summary. Please request to speak. If not, we're going to move on. Lincoln, how is your FSD experience going? You still have 12.3.6, right?
Yeah, last week was the worst week I've had so far. I was a little discouraged actually. Yeah, I had multiple issues. I had to take over. It almost ran into a few things like like turning onto a street that had construction and there was a blockage and you had to go, they had a narrow way which you had to go down and it couldn't find that and just almost ran right into the gate. So I had to take over. So I've had a few things like that. It's still edge cases, but those have to be taken care of. And then merging on the highway is still sucky. But then I lost it, so I've been without it since Friday. So I'm a little sad. I still hate driving. I really miss it. Even though it's doing a little worse lately, I really miss it. So
Okay,
and
well, hopefully
Yaman,
we're gonna get to 12. Hopefully we'll get 12.4.2 soon, going wide. Go ahead, Lincoln.
definitely. And I swear they make changes to the settings because my car it seemed amazing at first. And now it's like being weird. Even my son was like, can you just take it off? So he was getting sick because it was kind of jerky and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. So I don't know if anyone else has experienced that. It's also though, maybe like it was so much better than 12.11, right? That maybe I was excited at first and then I've gotten used to it and I expect it to be even better. So I'm not exactly sure. But I'm definitely looking forward to more updates. Not sure why we're on hold. Oh, and I'm thinking about getting a 3 refresh. I'm not sure yet. I have my 2023 that I will be using as my commuter probably, and the Y we use for something else. But like I think, man, that old 3 definitely is a lot. It's louder and everything on the road. I just want something comfortable, so I'm thinking to get the refresh because people are saying such good things. But I have not driven it yet. Have you driven it yet, Yaman?
No, I see it all the time, but I haven't driven it yet. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try it soon. But we have Joey in the room.
Nice.
If he wants to come up and request to speak, he can give you an update on. I mean, Joey is really loving his new Model 3. And in yesterday's space, he talked quite a bit about the new Model 3. And it was a pretty balanced feedback too. If you guys want to listen to that, but it was in yesterday's space.
Was there anything negative he shared? I haven't heard anything negative yet.
Yeah, the only thing he shared was he thinks the paint on the new Model 3. I think this is general feedback on cars coming out of 3 months. Is all thin, so he had to spend a few $100 for upgraded paint. Maybe he can come up and talk about it again.
Okay.
On Friday, I sat inside the Performance Model 3, the new one, and the seats are just for the seats. I'm telling you, that's something else. It's unbelievable how comfortable they are.
Joey, welcome back.
Welcome. I'm using FSD right now in the 3. It's pretty good. It's super quiet inside, not very any noise. Definitely better than previous non-24 models. Like the wind noise, there's like no wind noise, no road noise, really smooth driving. Everything is just super refined. It's definitely better than the old generation, or whatever you call it. Yeah, it's just
Lincoln, what are you waiting for?
The ventilated seats are super nice, especially in this 90-degree
What was that, Yaman?
day.
What are you waiting for to order?
Oh, I gotta look over. I gotta decide his finances, look over finances and stuff, see what I can get on my old Model 3. So it's really just that. Because
Gotcha.
I'll be losing money. I'll be, for getting a newer one on it. But, if it's that good, then I think, that could just be a keeper forever, or for quite a long time. So, and yeah.
Ellie,
Question for you, Yaman. Why do you think Tesla don't take cars trading? They don't do trading in all states, in all countries where they operate. Like, what's the reason behind that? I'm curious.
I don't know actually. I didn't know that was the case. They don't. I mean, maybe they need some sort of license for each state. I'm guessing, but that's just a guess. If anybody knows the answer to that question, please request to speak. So you're saying Tesla does not accept trade-ins in every state? Which states are those?
I said states, but then I was corrected myself to countries. So they don't do it in my country, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a regulatory thing. I'm not sure. We have next big feature in this space. If he wants to come up and talk about Optimus, I would appreciate that. We don't usually get him, so that would be a pretty cool discussion. Lincoln, can you guys still not hear me?
I didn't hear
I can
anything.
hear you.
Hello?
Could you hear him before he said Lincoln?
I could, yes. He said that we have next big feature in the space.
No,
if
then he said
wants,
something after that.
Then he said Lincoln.
Hello? Next big feature here. Can
Hi,
you hear me?
hi. Yeah, how are you?
Good. So
what's on your radar? Welcome to the space.
My radar is basically that FSD, like, when we get to 12.4 point whatever or 12.5, where we get that step up in miles per intervention, significant step up. You don't talk about 5 or 10 times, but for each major version. But I think as long as we get double or triple, like we kind of got from going from 11 to 12.3 and 12.2, that I think would be sufficient for a radical reevaluation of FSD adoption rates and of basically it's a different product, because you have when you go from new teenage driver to regular average human driver, that is 3 times, right? It's the teenage driver 3 times less safe than the average driver. So I think if you get that kind of step up in level, that is going from teenage driver to regular driver, I think that is something that will have a large financial impact. And just getting to the point where the driving experience is safe, even though regulatory you don't have any.
So let me ask you something. Yeah. So it sounds like you believe that Elon will prove correct when we go to 12.4, that you think that we're going to get a 5x to 10x improvement in interventions. Is that
currently, based on what we're seeing with 12.4 early releases, it doesn't seem like it's the case, right? Where we've gotten all that. Like somehow we need more polishing, more point releases to get to that 5x level. Based on what I'm seeing with the videos, because some people have 12.4.1, like Holmars, and they talk about several drives in a row where they don't have interventions needed. It seems like there's more polishing in point releases to get to some level, but they do say it does seem to be better, right? I'm just saying that 12.4.5 or whatever, maybe that gets quite good. You get to the point where it matures a bit and gets a nice double or triple. And I think that especially if 12.5 falls up quickly and gets to that level, that would be a substantial change. That basically, hopefully that happened before 8.8, but that getting to 1,000, 2,000 miles per intervention, that should be enough to trigger. I think also what's currently been done may have been enough to trigger the licensing by Chinese companies, Baidu, BYD, etc., which could be announced at 8.8 and that kind of thing. So, but I think a more slam dunk.
What do you expect out of 8.8?
I am expecting that some Chinese car makers do announce, or robotaxi companies, Chinese robotaxi companies, do announce that they will use licensed partner with Tesla on FSD robotaxi. They already have the 10 cars or whatever in Shanghai, but at a more significant level. That China robotaxi companies, I would expect, announcement of immediate or by next year, 10 to 50 cities would say that in China would go with robotaxi trials, and that I'm hoping for at least one company to do the licensing of FSD. So robotaxi deals and at least one FSD license is my not super prediction, but my expectation that should happen, assuming that we get some doubles and triples in terms of, at least in terms of the miles per intervention.
Grant, what do you think?
I missed a little bit of it, but it's hard to imagine. I don't know. I just don't see anything happening on the timelines that people are hopeful for. I honestly think that there should be some announcement along those lines when the robotaxi is unveiled so that it doesn't fall flat. That's one thing I'm looking for, but I'm honestly not optimistic. It's weird even to think about like a pilot for an ADAS L2 system existing. Like that's not a real thing.
Next big feature, is there a company that you believe will be first to license?
I think it would be Baidu. I think Baidu might be the first. I seem to be occasionally muting. So I think Baidu would be the first one to do it because they already did the hyper mapping and they have Apollo. So they have the need for thousands of cars to do dozens, if not 100 cities next year. They were planning to do their own rollout of that. So I think, and that scale deal with Baidu, Xiaomi and Xpeng seem like they might be favorable to doing that kind of thing as well. So I would expect one, if not all three companies to do something with Tesla. Were you able to hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, but you have to mute yourself when you're not talking next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, first, I think it's worth thinking through when a company would actually be willing to license the technology. I think it's pretty unlikely you're going to see anyone pull the trigger on that before actual L4 robotaxis are operating at some level of scale on Tesla vehicles. I just, as it exists today, it's not the sort of thing that someone would invest the time and energy into before the technology is proven. The next point is that it is a significant investment in time and technology. I don't think that anyone would be able to actually, license it or be ready to pay for it for at least a couple of years. If you just look at the timelines for developing models that have cameras in the relevant places that can kind of speak the same language as FSD's existing approach. And then the third thing is that a lot of those Chinese manufacturers that you mentioned are already investing a ton of money in LiDAR. And I think in a lot of cases might be further along than Tesla is. So I don't agree on any of that, really.
So the Chinese car makers have said that they consider their self-driving AI systems more like Tesla version 11. So they seem to have been saying by themselves, actually this was, I think, a FSD self-driving car expert at a Chinese university, I think, who made that statement. So, but there have been, I think, several other analysis that seem to say that they were roughly around version 11 level. And so they thought that 12 was already, 12.2, 12.3 was already an improvement beyond what they were doing. Because they have said that their ADAS systems, can't handle surprises, they're the more brittle system. Also, the LiDAR limits the deployment, right? Because they have to make enough LiDAR, like 8 LiDARs per car, about 200,000 auto-grade LiDAR at most, I think in 2022. And then half of those have to go to more simple driver assist systems where you need like 1 to 3 LiDAR in order to just do a driver assist autopilot like system. So I think there's issues with deployment that if you can get to the full vision system, that there are advantages to that. And again, it does depend upon some level of what Elon was saying with 12.4, 12.5 happening, and that happening in, as long as it happened before the end of the year, but hopefully it happens sooner over the next couple months, at least full 12.4 getting at least double, triple out of that, and then 12.5 coming and delivering hopefully the rest of what Elon was saying. And also the rate of improvement should be improving with the no longer compute limited and with continuing increasing levels of compute. And they're going to a full simulated validation system where they're make a data center to do a digital validation of their builds.
Yeah, I think I've seen the comment that you're alluding to where someone said that Tesla was ahead. I've also seen comments from Chinese EV makers who say they're not ahead. I think it's worth keeping in mind that Tesla is the only group that I'm aware of that's pursuing a vision of vision only self-driving. Everyone else is investing in LiDAR. So I'm just not optimistic at all that they're ahead or that the people who are currently investing in LiDAR are going to make a licensing investment in Tesla's technology before a bunch of Tesla robo-taxis exist in operation on the roads. It's just not going to happen. I mean, I'll bet, coffee bet, whatever you want to bet. Like, it's not going to happen until there are 50,000 commercial robo-taxis from Tesla in existence. It's a fanciful fantasy. That's my take.
Sorry, what's the coffee bet you're offering?
Tesla's not going to license their tech out to anyone.
Yeah, I agree. I agree
50,000.
with you. I agree with you. Yeah, that's fine. I don't think Tesla will license it either. I think this whole licensing thing is way blown. I think it's going to take at least 1 to 2 generations of vehicle redesigned by legacy automakers for Tesla to license, if ever. And I don't think legacy automakers have the capital or the profit margins to pay Tesla what that would take. So I think people are way too excited about this whole licensing thing. Cliff? All right, Cliff, can you ask your question? Just ask your question. First-time speakers are they're required to ask questions. 10 words or fewer. Start with a question word. I'm going to put you on mute while you think about your question and reformulate your question. Be thoughtful. Talk to ChatGPT if you need to first. And go on your rants to ChatGPT. Actually, I'm going to move you down to listener while you do all that. And then ask ChatGPT, how can I ask my question in 10 words or fewer? That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, here's a spicy take. I think that there is a, I'm going to say 20% chance that Tesla debuts a robo taxi with LiDAR. Otherwise, I don't know what they're actually going to show that represents progress towards autonomy. I mean, obviously, FSD is evolving, they're working on it, but if it's just another smaller Tesla with the same cameras, maybe it's like, oh, these cameras are better, and then no steering wheel. I think it's a flop. I mean, it's like years away from existing potentially. We don't even know if it'll ever exist. I wouldn't be surprised if they say, they kind of split the baby and say, hey, look, we've built a vision only system. We're going to have LiDAR incorporated as a fail safe to help with regulatory approvals, yada, yada. I think there's a chance that happens. Curious for the group's thoughts.
So I had a question. So you don't.
No, you have to stay on mute until I call on you. Westic. Yeah, connection issues have been pretty bad today. I don't know why. Okay, next week. Yeah, connection issues have been pretty bad today. I don't know why. Okay, next week.
Yeah. So my question to you, Yaman, and maybe to Grant, is so you don't think that any licensing deal would happen, partners in to get to 100 cities in a faster rollout and more data? Did you hear that question about needing to partner with the Chinese robotaxi companies to get to the hundreds of cities? Let me know what heard.
I heard that.
I mean, okay, hold on. So you're saying Tesla needs Chinese automakers, partner with Chinese automakers to get to hundreds of cities? Why? Why can't we just produce Teslas?
Because I think that the Chinese government has already approved these robotaxi companies, Apollo, DD, et cetera, to go to the Chinese cities, which are 800, and that they have the system for doing that. I guess they could, in theory, just say, okay, Tesla can go on your own. You can do robotaxi in Chinese cities, but it seems like they've already approved Chinese car makers already.
And they can approve us too.
Okay. So you don't be needed. So then the general view is only a vehicle will be shown in 8.8, and there'll be no licensing deals, no other deals, because Elon has also said that he would be open to deals with other car makers.
Yeah, I think Tesla would be open to, like I've always said that Tesla would be open to licensing it, but obviously it's going to be at a cost. And no Chinese automaker even produces pure EVs at a profit margin. So how are they going to also take on an FSD licensing cost? I don't get that math.
Well, because the Chinese car makers and automakers have government and state support, and if the government and state wants it in order to save $700 billion a year on medical costs from reduced accidents and save 250,000 lives and deaths, and also accelerate transition to EV transportation, that would be in the national interest to the tune of nearly $1 trillion, and thus they would then support that. Is my view, because currently, yes,
yeah, maybe in the longer term, but right now you can't make the argument that I think maybe in the longer term, like 5 to 10 years, maybe then, but I don't think that's going to be announced on 8.8.
Hey, so I'm the biggest full self-driving fan there is, but I'm not very convinced a lot of the excitement about China, at least in the short to medium term. I've maybe fallen down the rabbit hole a little more than I should have on like China economy FUD videos, which I think are probably painting an unrealistically negative picture of what's going on in China. But one thing that comes up a lot in those videos is like DD drivers complaining about, I just can't make a living. I work 12 hours a day and I only make $15 US or something. And it's just hard for me to imagine when they've got rideshare drivers that are that desperate for work and will make work for that little, that there's that much money to be, even if you had a perfectly working robo taxi and all the the government was behind you at all. It just doesn't seem like there's that much money to be made in that economy right now with the prices it just sounds like they already have very cheap ride hailing rides, and the drivers they're not making money like they are in the US. So it'd be very hard competition, even if everything worked and you had the regulations lined up.
Thank you. Luke.
Hey everybody. So in my opinion, Waymo is better than Tesla right now just because of HD maps. It's not about edge cases, and it's all about mapping the surroundings precisely. Yeah, so that's my opinion.
Okay, Grant.
Yeah, I also agree that Waymo's better right now. But was going to go back to the point made 2 speakers ago and say that, yeah, I don't think that China is
Okay, so
going to...
on the Waymo real quick. So the fact is, you can't take a Waymo, drop it in outside of the 3-5 cities they're in, and expect it to perform. Okay, so you have to specify in the mapped areas, they are better than Tesla FSD because they're approved to give out rides. Like, for example, today, Waymo was approved. They opened it up to everybody in San Francisco. You don't even have to have an approval or anything like that. You don't have to wait on a waiting list. So they're giving now in San Francisco rides. But that's in a very small area. And you're waiting more than you would wait for a human-driven Uber. And I don't think they're profitable either. So in small areas, they might be better, but if you take Waymo out and put it in anywhere else in the nation, which is like 99% of the nation, they don't even work. They're not approved. They don't work. They're very costly. So, that better term is just very limited. Jimmy? Guys, what is going on today? Why is everybody taking forever to respond?
I was going to say there's always a place for robo-taxis. My state is dumb. They passed a stupid law in Minnesota that said they need to pay $20 an hour. And because of that, Lyft and Uber left. And so now you can't go to Minneapolis and you can't get to St. Paul. You have to take an old school taxi that doesn't exist.
With it.
Yeah, I was just wondering if they're reconsidering that up there in Minneapolis. Are they trying to undo that, or the locals pretty upset by not having those services?
I mean, we're a pretty democratic, backward state, in my opinion. I don't want to get into politics, but you have these people who have cars. They're willing to work for any type of money. And then the state's like, you know what? You're not making enough. So now we're just going to have you make $0.
Okay, 5-minute warning, 5-minute warning. Any questions, please request to speak. I'm going to send out the Macro Weekly tonight. And I'm also going to send out, as I always do, daily summaries, which now have timestamps for the YouTube video. So you can use it as a table of contents kind of thing as well. I highly appreciate my patrons who support this space. The link is at the top of the screens. All right. We had a bunch of connection issues today, so let's end it here and continue tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody, and I will talk to you guys next time.